Hello, me again, Katie from KO Estates, here to sit down and chat. A huge question I get asked is like, what was your first property purchase? And I'm sitting in it right now. Actually, my first purchase was the purchase of my own property to live in. And I purchased a property at 22. So it was kind of like 18 months ago now. It's gone so quickly, it's insane. And honestly, it was something I was just so excited to do. Like, it was a huge goal of mine. And honestly, it's such an accomplishment when you set out a goal and you achieve it. And it's just like a moment where I was just like, wow. So I just wanted to like chat you through that process, because it wasn't a quick process. I mean, it takes years because you've got the whole saving process, but then you've actually got the finding, the like securing, moving in, the progression. Like, there's so many variables and so many like things that went wrong, and you just learn from them every single step of the way. It was my first property purchase, so I learned so much. There was ups and downs, but it all worked out for the best. It's kind of like that motto, what's meant to be is meant to be. Like, I was looking around properties and I had prices agreed on other properties that I thought was the one, and I was like, something would happen and it fell out of bed and I was absolutely gutted. Like, it would hurt so much because I'd got like so excited about that opportunity. But now looking back, I'm like, well, it was meant to be because I'm in the right place and it all worked out fine. So that is a huge lesson. Everything is meant to be in this game, and because you will see ups and downs, and because it's a house for yourself, unlike an investment property, it's so personal. You want to absolutely love where you are. You need to like feel good in your environment, and it becomes a lot more personal. So it's like so important that you get it right, and it's a huge thing. In like November, I picked up the keys and completed, but the journey started well before then. As soon as I left school, I was like, this is what I want to do. I didn't go to university, so I stayed at home. I never lived out of like my family home. So I was kind of craving that a little bit, because you see all my friends and they're at university, living the life. Like, and I'm not to say at all that I had a poor house or family environment. I absolutely loved living at home, but it was just like, I wanted that independence. I wanted my own space. So for me, having my own house was like everything. So as soon as I left school and I got an apprenticeship and a job and I started earning money, I was like, okay, this is what I'm saving for. The buying a property process, it starts years before you buy it, because the finances are like the foundations of making that happen. And I learned a lot through the process. So if you are looking to buy your own house at the moment, lenders typically will lend you about 5 times your salary. So you kind of work backwards from that point, and that's how you can kind of get a budget together. So for me, at the time I was actually buying my house, I was on about 25,000, I'd say, a year. Times that by 5, yeah, 125. I actually got 130,000 mortgage, to put it into perspective. That was the maximum I could lend. Like, I was taking everything I could. I was like, because obviously buying a house is expensive, so I wanted to make sure I was mortgaged up. We have the advantage on your first home that you've got time on your side. Like, you are young, so you've got ages to pay it off. Interest rates are super low. There's a lot of things stacking up. So I was like, I need like the biggest mortgage I can. I'll repay it over 20, 30 years. That doesn't matter to me. I'll pay it off eventually. I just need to try and get the maximum I could. And I managed to get a mortgage of 130,000, which is just like teeny tiny, slightly over five times. But it's a rough estimate, and it gives you a good guide. So I knew, right, okay, so I can borrow 130,000. Everything else has to be deposit and money I put down in cash, because the banks will not offer me any more. I could then start to get a budget of what I worked with based on what I'd saved, and I paired that with my mortgage. So I was then starting to look at properties. Now, I'm not in a cheap area of the country. I'm in a lovely place and I absolutely love it. But with that comes an expensive price, and everything I was looking at was just like extortionately priced. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be impossible. It's like so frustrating, because Also, you've got time as well, because you're saving up, saving up, saving up. If you take 6 months to save, an X amount, property prices have also rise by X% as well. So you feel like you're always chasing your tail, and it's like, oh my gosh. So sometimes you're just like, I need to just get into the market now, and then I'll be able to like rise with these prices too. For me, I kind of had to you kind of like race in the system as well. So it's difficult. Like, there's no denying that. So I knew I had a £130,000 mortgage. The rest had to be made up in deposit. So I was saving as much as I could. As soon as I left school, I went into an apprenticeship. So I started earning straight away, which was brilliant, but it was very, very little. I was on 12,000 a year, which seems crazy, but I was living at home. So I was able to save some of that. And as I progressed through the company and started earning more money, I could then save more money. And yeah, my one big aim and goal was to get enough to buy my property. So that was my main goal, and I made it a bulletproof system so that I was saving as much as I could, and then everything else do with whatever I want. If I wanted to go out, go shopping, XYZ. But I knew that the majority of my savings had already gone out, like by direct debit, the day I got paid. So anything left over, I could then spend. I wasn't then worried about, oh, like I'm spending, and I just knew what I had. I never had any overdrafts or anything like that. So I was literally spending what I allowed myself to spend. And I think that's an important system to put in place, especially if you're looking to save, because it's so easy. Christmas will come along and you're like, oh, well, this month I'll forget about it. But actually those one-off months here and there add up and make a huge, huge difference. So it's just setting yourself up for success, committing to yourself, saying to yourself, like, this is what I want. I'm going to make it happen, and I'll put this system in place. So that's exactly what I did. And I was saving money like that from the moment I left school. So I was doing that as much as I could, saving. And then when I was coming to a position saving wise where I was like, okay, well, I could like start to look. I started to look, because you need to know what a good buy looks like. You've saved up all this money. Like, you want to make sure you are getting the best buy for your money. It's an investment if you play it right at the end of the day, and it can be an investment. So it was important for me that it's hard work saving that money. I don't want to then just spend it on a house that I have to then spend loads on down the line, or it's not going to grow with appreciation. There's so many different factors too. So I started then doing a lot of research, doing a lot of viewings, and I was very specific in the area that I wanted to be in. Now, that's because I was moving out on my own. I didn't want to move too far away from family and friends, because being on my own, I just thought I'd feel very, very isolated. I love where I lived. My work, everything I did was around that place. I loved the vibe, I loved the community, everything about it. So I knew that was one of my key factors, was location and where I wanted to be. So that helped me focus the search. It also made it a bit more difficult, but having key things that you know are just non-negotiable for you help focus the search, because it's easy to get lost in like Rightmove and you're all over the show, and you're like, you can't then compare apples with apples, because you're looking at a property over here, property over there. Like, how do you compare them? For me, location was absolutely key, so that's what I focused on. But for others, if location's like easy for you, then win-win, because you can probably move a little bit further away, get a bigger property for your price, etc. But for me, that was important, so that's what I based my searches around. And I started to go on a lot of viewings. The estate agents definitely knew me, because I was going on these viewings to see what kind of properties I could get for below my budget, on budget, a little bit higher, although estate agents don't like taking you around things you can't afford, but we roll. And for a good year, I was doing viewings, and it gave me an excellent understanding of what a good deal was, how much space I could get for my money. And when I was going through all these viewings, I really got a sense of what I could get for my money, which wasn't a lot. But it gave me a good understanding of the market, so that when I was ready to buy, I knew what a good buy looked like, and I knew like how much space I should be getting for my money and stuff like that. And I then started to really develop a knowledge of going into a place and going, oh, this is really overpriced, or this isn't, and this is a really good buy. And it had been on the so it was actually funny, because I was checking Rightmove every single day, no joke. Like, I was like obsessed. I was always checking, like, see if there's any new updates. And I don't know why, but this, like, the property I was in, it was on there for months and I was scrolling past it. I wasn't interested in it. And again, I think that was the closed-mindedness. It was actually a yellow, like, it was painted yellow on the outside. So it was not calling my name anyway. So it's actually really funny because then it was in COVID and it was like lockdown, but property was still allowed to go on. So I was doing loads of viewings then. And one day I just thought, you know what? I've not viewed these properties. They are in my budget. Why don't I just go and check them out? So, because there was this property and it, funnily enough, the exact same like style of house was for sale opposite as well. And they were both up for 230. So one Saturday in lockdown with nothing else to do, I was like, you know what, I'll just go and like check them out. If anything, it'll just be like market research. So I went in, did both viewings on the same day, and I came out, I was like, that's the one. Like, how funny that I discarded that property for so long. And like thinking about it, I don't even know why, but honestly, I went in, met the vendor, which is like the best thing you can do, because you get to know directly why they're looking to sell, and can get a lot more information about the property rather than speaking to an agent. And in COVID times, I was kind of blessed that that was the only option. So brilliant. And she was really lovely, talked to me about the property, how she found living here and everything like that. And within, I was only in the viewing for like 10 minutes and I came out and put an offer in. It's like, honestly, I've spent longer looking at a pair of shoes to buy, and this has another couple of zeros on the end of the price. Like, it's insane, like how quickly I made that decision. Looking back, probably a bit naively, and maybe I should have done a little bit more due diligence, but my due diligence was definitely done in the market. I knew what was a good buy for the price, and I knew this was. Maybe I should have spent a little bit more time looking at the boiler and things like that, which at the time, like being a first buyer, I just didn't even know and didn't even think to check. Like things like the roof, the plumbing, the boiler, I'd put an offer in. I hadn't even checked any of that, and that is something like I definitely learned from, because I was in the property 10 minutes, got carried away talking to the vendor. She was a lovely, lovely lady, and I put an offer in, and like looking back, that's a little bit foolish. Touch wood, I've been absolutely fine, and I got away with that one, but definitely a lesson learned for going forward. And yeah, so I looked at these properties, both of them actually, but I went for this one in the end, mainly because it's on, like, it had a south-facing garden, so the sun was in the garden a little bit more. Other than that, they were very, very similar. So the property was up for 230. Me being super cheeky, I put in an offer at 205. So a lot off the asking price, but the vendor was in a position where she wanted to move quick, and I said, listen, I will move quick because I'm keen to get this done, and put in an offer of 205. I had the fact that the property had been on the market for a while. The vendor was a keen, motivated seller, and I was able to secure a deal of £210,000, which was in budget. I had budget to then do it up to how I wanted it to be, and it was an incredible buy, because now a property over the road has just sold. Well, the asking price was 300,000, so I'm not sure exactly how much it's gone for, but things are just going like that now. And honestly, I think I bought at the right time, because in that 18 months alone, the property value has gone up 90,000. Now that is insane. It's allowed me to remortgage the property, pull that money out and buy other investments. That's my plan for this year, to start growing my portfolio a lot more and using that money wisely. So I feel very grateful to have found this gem. I've added value to the property. I've also bought at an incredible time, because the last 18 months have been crazy due to COVID. No one can get the property market's on fire. Like, things go up and they're sold the next day. That's how quickly, and because the demand's there, that's why the prices have gone up. So I think I timed it really well. So I was definitely lucky with that. I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, I think the whole experience taught me a lot, especially about viewings, about knowing your market, and being able to act quickly is huge. And it is like, sometimes vendors, they're more bothered about timing than price. And if you can offer that for them, then you can get a heavy discount because of it. So that's another thing to consider. So yeah, that's kind of a breakdown of the property, my first property, my first purchase, and it's been an exciting journey. I feel it's finally home now, which is lovely as well. And it's been lovely having my own space, and it was an exciting time picking up those keys on collection day. I went with my best friend to collect them from the local agent, and it was just like, I was so giddy. I was like, oh my God, like, oh! Like, that feeling is just insane. So my top tips, if you're looking to buy, guys, right now, buy your own home, save as much as you can. Make sure you are an expert in that market that you're looking into, and you're doing lots of viewings, you're doing your research. Make sure you're buying right. Don't, after all that saving, throw it into a property that's not going to see any returns, or it's not going to be the best buy for you. Make sure you do your market research. And I think also, it's all about that compromise, especially if you've not got an unlimited budget. You need to know what your absolute crucials are, and then you need to be able to compromise on other things to make your musts happen. So you've got to go into viewings open-minded. You've got to be able to see past the decor, past the paintings, past the style, because you're going to make it your own. And if you can do that, you'll be able to secure a much better deal, and it will be an investment rather than a liability. So I hope that helped. It was an incredible journey. Catch you later. Bye.